Hi, I'm Raquel and this is Moosh. We are coming to you live from Treaty 4 territory, the traditional territory of the Cree, the Saulteaux, the Nakota, Lakota, Dakota, and the Métis Nation, to summarize my learning in EC&I 833, Foundations of EdTech. We learned about 6 key innovation streams in this course. We learned about philosophies, ideologies, epistemologies, and learning theories behind each of these streams. We took a critical look at them, asking what each toolset makes possible and impossible, reflecting on who it privileges and disadvantages, and digging into the cultural and societal values, assumptions, and discourses that shape technology integration practices. Further, we examined the implications of EdTech on issues of equity and social justice. So, for each topic, Moosh will give a short TikTok demo, and then I will explain and summarize my learning. So, without further ado, here is Moosh on productivity suites and presentation tools. You good boy?
Tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life.
Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace are the key players in productivity suites today. Because productivity suites encompass a broad range of learning tools, they can be used to fit a variety of learning theories. It's not so much about the tools themselves, but making sure you're using the tool in ways that align with your pedagogical beliefs. These tools were originally created for business and were retrofitted for use in education because our society highly values productivity and getting things done. In my blog post, The Productivity Trap, I wrote about how we need to be critical of society's obsession with productivity and how that plays into schools. We also have to remember that these huge companies are much more concerned with making a profit and not as concerned with the best interests of students.
If you change your mind, I'm the first in line. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me. If you need me, let me know. Gonna be around. If you got no place to go, if you're feeling.
This year, in my role as an instructional coach for Indigenous and Treaty education, I supported teachers and classrooms online using Microsoft Teams. Sometimes the students were in the classroom with the teacher and I was just up on the screen. And other times the students were online working from home, so we were all on Teams. Some of the other online learning tools I used were Class Notebook, Minecraft Education Edition, Microsoft Whiteboard, Padlet, Nearpod, PowerPoint, and Canva. So how much do the tools we use really matter? I believe that the tools we use can have a huge effect on teaching and learning. Learning by building with a group in Minecraft is very different than learning by listening to a lecture. Learning by creating something in Canva is very different than learning by reading and answering questions. Learning something on a video call with your teacher or in breakout rooms with your peers is very different than doing an entire course asynchronously. During Mike, Josie, Famita, and Jackie's presentation, they shared that technologies are not neutral tools and reminded us that educators must consider how technologies can work for and against anti-oppressive aims.
You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be.
We learned about the evolution of the web from Web 1.0, the read-only web, Web 2.0, the read-write web, and Web 3.0, the read-write-execute web. The learning environment of Education 2.0 involves using collaborative Web 2.0 tools to learn in participatory, interactive ways. It's based on constructivist learning theory, where students construct knowledge through interactions with others and the world around them. The learning environment of Education 3.0 takes this a step further and has students forming their own PLNs and creating share-worthy content. It's based on hudagogy, or self-determined learning, and connectivism, the belief that students learn by maintaining connections to others. Daniel, Mike, and Kelly all had questions and concerns about Education 3.0. Daniel asked, how do you develop curriculum that is purely self-guided? From a financial position, how do you assess reading levels and funding decisions if there is no single uniform curriculum? How do those outcomes then correlate to post-secondary prerequisites? Kelly talked about whether or not this would be realistic for her middle year students and whether they have the skills to do such a self-determined version of learning. So there's lots to consider when thinking about the shift to Web and Education 3.0. For assessment technology, Christina, Janelle, Lori, and Ramona did critical reviews of Formative, Class Dojo, Plickers, and Flipgrid. And Class Dojo, Moosh demonstrated a little bit in his video, but it's a pretty problematic classroom management tool that relies on behaviorist theory and conditioning to reinforce desired behaviors. I reflected on my current choices around incorporating assessment technology, and I believe they align with constructivism, so learning by doing, experiencing, and interacting with people in the world around us, as well as constructionism, which is learning by creating a meaningful artifact to represent or reconstruct learning. And finally, connectivism, which is learning by maintaining connections. I'd like to dive deeper into Adobe Spark, Formative, and just focus on ensuring students are actively involved in the assessment process. Assistive technology refers to the devices and services that are used to increase, maintain, or improve the capabilities of students with disabilities. It can range from low to high tech, and wearable tech is also becoming more popular in schools, as Reed shared during the presentation and Moosh demonstrated with the Fitbit. Assistive tech is good for all students, and it's important that we destigmatize the use of assistive tech in the classroom. Some of the assistive tech tools that I want to incorporate more consistently and encourage all students to use are Microsoft Immersive Reader, Dictate, which is a speech-to-text tool, and audiobooks. We also need to be aware of the harmful dominant paradigms of disability that are still present in society, schools, and classrooms, and we need to move towards the social model of disability, which emphasizes structural barriers in society, as well as disabled people's rights to be included and treated fairly. We should not be sending the message that anyone needs fixing. Instead, we need to make sure students know we respect their identities and that we can all use assistive tech to support our learning. Makerspaces and coding in the classroom are based on Piaget's constructivism and Papert's constructionism, and also the discovery learning approach. Some of the critiques of makerspaces and coding is that, again, there is not equitable access. Not everyone can afford to bring in 3D printers. You can use cardboard and cheaper materials like Moose showed in his video, but will that provide the same experience for students? To sum it all up, anytime we are bringing tech in, we always need to be thinking about equity issues and thinking critically about the social and cultural impacts. Remember, in the wise words of Neil Postman, technology is always a trade-off, so we should always be reflecting on whether the advantages are worth the cost. Thanks for watching!